last 11 days of potential zivus, which means that if she bleeds during those 7 days, she's a niddah. She bleeds during those 11 days, she is a zava. The issue with the kesem, of course, is she may not be sure, or she's not sure exactly when that kesem came about, and as such, again, is not exactly sure what the beginning of her niddah cycle is. So the Mishnah goes on. V'chosheshesh mishum zov divrei Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir says ultimately she has to be chosheshes because of zava as well. Look at Rashi. Chosheshes mishum zov im avra la gimel mimei ziva mishalav shechaluk zeh. If 3 days of her zivos has passed by since she has put on this particular garment, umatza alav kesem gadol shir gimel grisin v'od, and she finds on this garment a stain that is the size of more than 3 grisin. A gris, remember again, is the minimum size, ultimately again, of a kesem, for which it is problematic. Just for illustration purposes, a gris is approximately the size of a penny. So if she finds the size, a stain that is the size of 3 grisin and more, Rashi says, "Misapkina luhu tilmal kol chad v'chad b'chad yom achazia v'afagav nokom echad chamsu." Well, so the issue is, if she sees a stain that is more than the size of 3 grisin, there is the possibility that halacha l'maisa that is really 3 independent stains that just came about on the same part of the garment, and in fact, again, that would be 3 ri'os during her yemei zivus. These are the words of Rabbi Meir. The Chacham say no, ein b'ksam mishum zov. The Chacham say in general, ksamim only pose a problem for hilchos nida, do not pose a problem for zivus. So says the Gemara, man chachamim. Who is the opinion of the Chachamim? Rabbi Chanina ben Antigonus. It's the opinion of Rabbi Chanina ben Antigonus. Tesanya. Rabbi Chanina ben Antigonus Omer Ksamim ein ba mishum zov. Rabbi Chanina ben Antigonus says that Ksamim, Rabbi say, do not factor into the halachos of zivos. So the din of Ksamim, the din of stains, is a din in hilchos nida, is not a din in hilchos zivos. However, upamim shak Ksamim mevi'in lidei ziva. But sometimes Ksamim can lead one to zivos. How so? Keitzad. If a woman wore 3 different garments and each of them were bedukos, which means she examined the garments before she wore them and there was no blood on any of those garments. First white line above in the bottom of Nun Beis and Beis. Umatzah kesem, and then she finds a kesem on it. Oh, Sherasa Beis Yamim B'chalok Echad. So we'll say case number 1 is where she wore 3 garments, each of them were checked and found blood on each of those garments. Case number 2 is ultimately, again, she has 2 days of re'ios, 2 days of actual emissions, and then what? Chaluk echad. And then on one of the garments she finds a stain. What's the halacha? Hein aksama v'ili deziva. Ultimately, again, these are situations where stains could bring her to a state of zivus. To which the Gemara says, Hashta shlosha chalukos telav migufa kachazya chashinan. If you're going to be choshish, ultimately, again, for zivus, in a case of 3 stains on 3 garments, but I will say when it says the lav migufa means this is not an emission, but rather it's a stain. Beis yamim v'chalok echad mibai. So ultimately, again, would you need to even state the case of where she had 2 re'ios and then 1 stain on a bedika, that those would combine together to form a potential zivus? To which the Gemara says, I'll tell you why we need them. Ma'udetema, kol ki agavna mevia karban v'neachal. I might have thought that when the Bryce over here says that it brings her to a state of zivus, that it brings her to a definitive state of zivus, as defined by the fact that she will observe Shiva Nakim and then bring a carbon that is consumed at the end of her zivus. Kamash Malano. Kamash Malano said that all of these cases are suffix zivus, right? In any of these situations, ultimately, again, are suffix. Amar Rava. So Rava said, Baha Zachinu Rabbi Chanina ben Antigonus l'Rabbanan. In this situation, Rabbi Chanina ben Antigonus has presented a better argument than the Rabbanan. How so? So the Gemara says, We'll say, why is it that ultimately, again, if you have less than 3 grisin in one place, that we're not choshesh? The Aminon betray Yome Chazise. Because it's possible that Lamaisa, these emissions occurred ultimately when? In 2 days. Right? Over the course of 2 days, not over the course of 3 days. I shlosha grisim b'makomecha nami nema tarti upalga megufa chazise v'idach agav zuama dam macholasu. So why don't I say the same thing when she finds 3 grisin in one place? Why don't I say that halacha l'maisa, 2.5 of those grisin ultimately came from her, and some part of this stain is dam macholes, is blood, ultimately again from some other external. Dam macholes literally means blood from a louse. It means blood from some type of external source. V'Rabbanan Kevan di'ika lefluge begris va'od l'chol yoma lo talinan. So we'll say, whereas Rabbi Chanina ben Antigonus will say, that halacha lamaisa, you could be tola, ultimately again a case of 3 grisin, to even 2.5 from her body and another part of the blood from somewhere else, thereby kind of circumventing the issue of zivos. The Rabbanan are not tola like that. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Chanina ben Antigonus gimel grisa b'makom echad hu d'lo chayshinan, ha begimel makomos chayshinan. And even Rabbi Chanina ben Antigonus, he's not choshesh for 3 grisin in one place. But ultimately, again, if there were to be 3 different stains in 3 different places, ultimately, again, he would be choshesh. Ha'amrit begimel chalukosin begimel makomos lo. But beforehand, we just said that ultimately it's only problematic if it's 3 different garments, but not in 3 different places on the same garment. To which the Gemara says, "L'divrei Rabbanan kamar." This is Rabbi Chanina ben Antigonus speaking to the Rabbanan. Lididi begimel chalukosin begimel makomos lo. So Rabbi Chanina ben Antigonus says, as for me, it is only a problem if what? If ultimately it's 3 stains on 3 different garments. But if it's 3 stains in 3 different places on the same garment, that does not pose a problem. Ela lididachu, but according to you, Rabbanan, oduli mihas tehechad dechazai gimel grisin b'makom echad. But at least agree with me, Rabbanan, that if she finds 3 grisin concentrated in one place, the aminan trei upalga migufa chazise, the idach agav zuama dam ma'acholasu. But at least agree with me that halacha lemaisa, that if what? That if she finds 3 grisin in one place, concentrated in one place, that we do not attribute that ultimately again to 3 different stains, but rather again we'll attribute that to some part from her body, but some part of it may be attributable to an external source as well. The Rabbanan will say, Kevan di'ika liflugi. Can you just tell me just to be a little bit quieter? Thank you. The Rabbanan, Kevan di'ika liflugi begris va'od l'chol yoma lo talinan. And the Rabbanan will say as follows, that since halacha l'maisa, you can go ahead and attribute it to a gris and a bit for each and every day. Thank you. Ultimately, again, we will not be told that. So I will say, fundamental distinction over here is in the following situation: that if you find a concentration of blood that is enough to represent 3 grisin, right? Remember again, a gris is the minimum amount of a discharge that will be halachically problematic. If you find that amount, or you find 3 grisin, which is the problematic amount to potentially make her a zava gedola, or at least a zava misafek. So how do we treat that? So we see fundamental machloks, and we see some saying that ksamim in general can never create a zivos. Others explain that no, it could create a zivos, but it depends how you find it. You have to find 3 stains on 3 different garments, or 3 stains, distinct stains, even if they're on the same garment. Or some say no, even if you just find 1 big stain that is more than 3 grisin, you could even interpret that to mean 3 independent discharges on the same place. So fundamental machlokes. Ten Rabbanan. Haro kesem. So we'll say if a woman sees a kesem, second to last line on Beis Amud Beis. Woman sees a kesem. In yesh bo kedei lechalik gimel grisin. If you have the ability to take that large kesem and divide it up into 3 smaller ksamim, each of a gris, shein kegris v'od, each of them representing a gris and a little bit more. What's the halakha? Chosheshes. Ultimately, again, she'll have to be chosheshes for zivus. Ve'imlav, but if not, inu chosheshes. So if the stain in question is not the size of 3 grisin plus, then there's no need for her to be chosheshes. Rabbi Huda ben Igra, Rabbi Huda ben Igra says, Mishra Rabbi Yossi, achas zu, the achas zu chosheshes. I will say this is fascinating. Here we come to something very interesting. Look at the last Rashi on the daf. Achazu va'achazu, afilu b'shtei grisin. Rabbi Yossi comes along Rabbi Huda ben Igra and the name of Rabbi Yossi and says, even if you only have 2 grisin, you have to be choshesh for zivos. Why is that? Listen to this. Choshesh, look at last Rashi. Afilu b'shtei grisin, choshesh shema ra'asa osan b'shnei ben hashmashos o achas hayom va'achas ben hashmashos sham machar o re'iyas ben hashmashos ola l'shnei yamim shemiktsasa min hayom o miktsasa min halayla v'yesh b'shol shortzufin. Rabbi said this is incredible, right? So if somebody ever asks you, tell me, how can you ever have 3 discharges that could really create the it happens, elevator talk, things like that. And so I'll say, so how can you ever have, right, shtei re'ios, or really shtei ksamim, that could ultimately again result in Zava Gedola. It was actually quite amazing, Ben Hashmashos, that if one of these Ksamim ultimately again appears, right, if one of these Ksamim appears, Ben Hashmashos, or let me say it differently, if you're Choshesh that they came about Ben Hashmashos, a discharge that occurs Ben Hashmashos could actually be reckoned as two discharges, right? Because if something occurs Ben Hashmashos and the possibility that it's both Yom and Laila, so there's a possibility that one discharge ultimately again counts as two. So this is great. So up until now, we've been assuming that in order for a kesem to be problematic, it has to be the size of 3 grisin and that represents 3 re'ios. Rabbi Yehuda ben Igra and name Rabbi Yossi is saying no, it could even be that b'shtei grisin with 2 grisin we'd have to be choshesh, because maybe one of those grisin came about ben hashmashas and therefore ultimately again counts as 2. Top of Nun Gimel. Amar Rabbi says Nirin dir Rabbi Yehuda ben Igra b'shelo badka v'divrei chachamim b'shebadka. So Rabbi comes along and says it would appear that halacha l'maisa, that Rabbi Yehuda ben Igra's statement makes sense when she didn't do a badika. But the words of the Chachamim, and therefore again we're not sure, maybe it did occur ben hashmashas, in which case again even 2 could be the equivalent of 3. But the position of the Chachamim would take place when Bishabatka, ultimately again when she did a badika, and therefore not choshesh for ben hashmashas. So let's analyze this. My badko, my la badko. What are you talking about when you say checking and not checking? So the Gemara says, Amar Rava, listen to this. Ashke chesina l'Rabbanan debei Rav, diasi v'ka'amri. So I came across the rabbinical students in the yeshiva of Rav, and they explained as follows. Hachamay askinon, what's the case here? Kigon shebadka atzma v'la badka chaluka. Now both say the case in question over here is when she went ahead and she checked herself ben hashmashos. So she did an internal examination ben hashmashos, but she did not check her clothing. Look at Rashi for just a moment. Kishebatka atzma kol shnei ben hashmashos v'lo batka chaluka b'shnei yamim ela begimol umatza beis grisin ulefish lo batka chaluka athina lo yada me'emas heim lefichach yesh lachush shema b'shnei ben hashmashos ra'asa o achas biyom rishon v'achas ben hashmashos shamachar davel gemurah. So most of the case over here is where she did a personal badika, an internal badika, but she did not check her clothing. So now what's the problem? And even when she checked herself, Rabbi said, when did she check herself? By the Ben Hashmashos of Rabbi Yehuda. We're going to see what this means in just a moment. But ultimately, again, by the Ben Hashmashos of Rabbi Yossi, she did not do a bedika. So Rabbi say, look at Rashi, this is incredible. So Rashi goes back to Masechah Shabbos, Mirtz Hashem Bekarov. We're going to be back there, Mirtz Hashem. Both say fundamental machlokas by Ben Hashmashos. When is Ben Hashmashos? Look at Rashi. Ben Hashmashos Rabbi Yehuda. Bebamem adlikin hichsif ha'elyon velo hichsif ha'tachton. V'shiuro chatzimil. So both say, listen to this. The Ben Hashmashos of Rabbi Yehuda is when the upper horizon is dark, but the lower horizon is still red. According to Rabbi Yehuda, that is Ben Hashmashas. And that goes on for the amount of time that it takes to walk half a mil, How long does it take? A mil is 18 minutes, half a mil is 9 minutes. So therefore, according to Rabbi Yehuda, Ben Hashmashas is a 9-minute time period where the upper horizon is dark, lower horizon is reddish. Ulu Rabbi Yossi holds that when it's Ben Hashmashas, keheref ayin ubesof hayom. Rabbi Yossi holds that Ben Hashmashas is the blink of an eye. At the end of the day, zenichnas zeh. Just so you know, the way it works in halacha is pretty much after sunset, all heck breaks loose, right? In other words, it's like halachic Wild West, right? In other words, essentially, the shitos that happen because sunset is a discernible event. It's recognizable, with one exception. You see, about say you would think that there's no machlokes in sunset. There's almost no machlokes in sunset. There's one opinion, the opinion of the Yereim. The Sefer Yereim holds that sunset occurs 18 minutes before we go ahead and see sunset. We are normally not choshesh for the opinion of the Yereim except Erev Shabbos. Let's say the concept of lighting candles 18 minutes before Shkia, 18 minutes before sunset, that's why you have 18 minutes. Do not use those 18 minutes. Right? That's not like a suggestion. That's halacha. You should start Shabbos by halakas neiros. But the reason why you have some level of flexibility with those 18 minutes is because Erev Shabbos, we are choshesh for the opinion of the Yereim. The Yereim says that Shkia is 18 minutes before. So again, we don't really accept that opinion, because if we really accepted that opinion, then you wouldn't be permitted to do malacha during those 18 minutes. But Lamai said that's where the 18 minutes come from. That's the opinion of Yereim. So what you see over here is as follows. Once the sun goes down, however, a total variety of opinions. So interestingly enough, now that we brought up the discussion of Ben Hashmashas, as we're going to see, there's a machlokes in Ben Hashmashas, Rabbi Huda and Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Huda is saying that ultimately, again, it's a time which occurs sometime after sunset. Upper horizon is dark, lower horizon is light, right? Or reddish, not really light, reddish, and it goes on for about 9 minutes. Rabbi Yossi, Ben Hashmashas is Kerafayin. It's the blink of an eye, and it's that transition between day and night. Okay? To which the Gemara says, how do we plug this in over here? D'Rabbanan Savri beBen Hashmashas Rabbi Yossi Lailahu. D'Rabbanan hold that by the time you get to the Ben Hashmashas Rabbi Yossi, obviously you understand the Ben Hashmashas of Rabbi Yossi is later than the Ben Hashmashas of Rabbi Yehuda, right? That's later on. So the Rabbanan hold that the Ben Hashmashas of Rabbi Yossi is Laila. There, by the time you get to the Ben Hashmashas of Rabbi Yossi, that's already night. V'habatka beBen Hashmashas Rabbi Yehuda. And ultimately, again, when is she doing her bedikos? She's doing her bedikos, ultimately, again, during the Ben Hashmashos of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yossi Latame, and Rabbi Yossi goes according to his reasoning, Da'amar, Ben Hashmashos Sveikahavi. Rabbi Yossi holds, Rabbi say that in general, the period of Ben Hashmashos, say there's two machloksim when it comes to Ben Hashmashos. Machlokis number one is, when is Ben Hashmashos? And machlokis number two is, what is the status of Ben Hashmashos? So Rabbi Yossi Tamei Dar Ben Hashmashos Sveikahavi. Ben Hashmashos ultimately again is almost like a halachic no man's land. It's safek va'amina lehu ana imole yadeh be'eineh kol Ben Hashmashos yafe ata omrim. And Rabbi Yossi was like this. And I say to Rabbanan as follows, literally translated: if her hand was in her eye, the entire Ben Hashmashos, then you're saying good. Or the hand in your eye is a euphemism for bedika. Right? So ultimately, again, if she was checking herself the entire period of Ben Hashmashas, then you'd be saying good. Achshav shema misiluk yadeh rasa. But perhaps, again, it's possible that, again, she's obviously not checking herself the entire Ben Hashmashas. And perhaps, ultimately, again, when she went ahead and withdrew her hand, that's when she bled. Va'amruli, ki kamrinan. And they said back to me, when do we hold our position? Kishenasna yadeh be'eineha kol Ben Hashmashas. You're right there for this. We only espouse our position when in fact she was doing a bedika the entire Ben Hashmashas. Amar Rabbi. Rabbi says as follows: Nirin div Rabbi Huda ben Igra b'shala badka. It would appear that the opinion of Rabbi Huda ben Igra applies when she did not do a bedika. But remember again, Rabbi Huda ben Igra is the opinion mentioned on the last line of Nun Beis Amud Beis, where he says that halacha lamaisa, even a re'iyah of 2 grisin and a bit can cause a problem. Why? Because what's the possibility? Maybe one of these ksamim occurred ben hashmashos, in which case, again, bless you could have a kesem that is one kesem that is reckoned as 2 potential re'iyos, because maybe it went through day and night. So says the Gemara, Rabbi says, when near and Rabbi Huda ben Igra, kishala badka. So I agree with the opinion of Rabbi Huda ben Igra when what? When she didn't do a bedika. Milo badka, what does it mean she didn't do a bedika? Ilema de badka b'd Rabbi Yehuda v'lo badka b'Rabbi Yossi. Maybe she did a bedika during the Ben Hashmashos Rabbi Yehuda, but not during the Ben Hashmashos Rabbi Yossi. Michlad Rabbi Yehuda savar afal gav de badka b'tarbaihu chaysha. Is that to say that ultimately again Rabbi Yehuda would hold, right? Rabbi Yehuda ben Igra would hold that Allah Lamaisa, even though she did a bedika by both of the Ben Hashmashos, would still be choshesh. Habadka. So the Gemara says habadka. Ala pshita de lo badka. Lo bid Rabbi Huda v'lo bid Yossi. Rather, it must be that what's the case when Rabbi Huda ben Igra holds that you have to be choshesh, that 2 ksamim can be equal to 3. That's when she didn't do a bedika during any of the Ben Hashmashos, right? Not during the Ben Hashmashos of Rabbi Huda and not during Rabbi Yossi. Avabadka bid Rabbi Huda v'lo badka bid Rabbi Yossi. But if she did a bedika during the Ben Hashmashos of Rabbi Huda, but not during the Ben Hashmashos of Rabbi Yossi, lo chaysha. Then ultimately again we will not be choshesh. Ultimately again for a Ben Hashmashos kesem. Alma Ben Hashmashos to Rabbi Yossi The Rebbe Laila. Therefore, both say, what do you see? That according to Rebbe, the Ben Hashmashos of Rabbi Yossi is already considered to be Laila. Ema Seifa. Look at the end of the Brayso. V'divrei Chachamim Kishebadka. The Chacham hold their position when she did a Badika. My Badka, what's the case of Badka? Ilema de Badka bid Rabbi Huda v'la Badka bid Rabbi Yossi. Maybe you're going to say she did a Badika by Ben Hashmashos Rabbi Huda and not the Ben Hashmashos Rabbi Yossi. Michlad Rabbanan Savri. Afal Gav de lo Badka b'tarbai hu lo Chashinan. Both say if that's the case, the position of the Rabbanan would be that even if she did not do a Badika by either of the shitos of Ben Hashmashos, we would not be Choshesh. So Hala Badka, she didn't do Badika. Both say first wide line, Ella, Pshita de Badka, Bein Rabbi Huda, Bein Rabbi Yossi. Rather, it's clear that what's the case? She did Badikos during both periods of Ben Hashmashos. Ava Badka b'd Rabbi Huda, v'lo Badka b'd Rabbi Yossi. But ultimately, again, if she did a Badika by Ben Hashmashos Rabbi Huda and not of Ben Hashmashos Rabbi Yossi, Chashinan, we will be Choshesh. Ultimately, remember again, when we say Choshesh, we're Choshesh for that one kesem that could equal 2 if it spanned Ben Hashmashos. Alma, Ben Hashmashos Rabbi Yossi, l'Rebbe Sveikahabi. Therefore, the Ben Hashmashos of Rabbi Yossi, in accordance with the position of Rebbe, is a period of suffix. So here's the problem. Kashya, the Rebbe ad Rebbe. That's an inherent contradiction in Rebbe. Hachikam Lazura means to say, Nirin Devi Rabbi Yehuda ben Igra l'Rabbanan de lo Badka Klal. So we'll say ultimately the position of Rabbi Yehuda ben Igra seems to be tenable according to the Rabbanan. One, when she did not do a Badika at all. She didn't do a Badika during any period of Ben Hashmashos. Lo b'd Rabbi Yehuda, v'lo b'd Rabbi Yossi. Sha'af Chachamim lo nechleku alav, because even the Chachamim are only cholik on Rabbi Yehuda ben Igra when Ella de Badka b'd Rabbi Yehuda, v'lo Badka b'd Rabbi Yossi. When she did a Badika during the Ben Hashmashos Rabbi Yehuda, but not a Rabbi Yossi. Aval heicha de lo Badka klal. But if she didn't do a Badika at all during Ben Hashmashos, then what? Module. Then ultimately, again, even the Rabbanon will agree with Rabbi Yehuda ben Igra that in the absence of any Badika during Ben Hashmashos, we have to be Choshesh. Then maybe one stain equals 2. So even if she only finds a stain of 2 grisen and more on her garment, that perhaps, again, is problematic. Or minhu will raise a kasha. Haroa kasem l're'iyah meruba chosheshes. We'll say if a woman sees a kasem, and it's what's called a re'iyah meruba. Re'iyah meruba means what? That it's a significant amount of blood in the stain of gimel grisim, right? 3 grisim or more. Chosheshes. Ultimately, again, she must be chosheshes. So the Gemara says, l're'iyah mu'etes, eno chosheshes. But ultimately, again, if the stain itself is smaller, i.e. less than 3 grisim, then there is no need for her to be chosheshes about anything. Zu divrei Rabbi Huda ben Igra, sh'amar mishum Rabbi Yossi. Right? So ultimately, again, these those Rabbi Huda ben Igra, saying Rabbi Yossi. So I'll say only if it's what's called a kesem meruba, or right, haroa kesem l're'iyah meruba. A large kesem she has to be chosheshes, a smaller one she would not. Amar Rabbi said, Ani shamati mimenu sha'achazu va'achaz zu chosheshes. Rabbi said, I heard whether it's what's called the kesem of a re'iyah meruba or a kesem of a re'iyah mu'etes, ultimately again she must be chosheshes. Uminatam hazeh amrli, and here was the logic. Uma ilu nida shalei frisha betara minamin cholamala lo tei becheskas tmeya. So we'll say ultimately again. We'll say look at Rashi for just a moment. Shalei frisha betara. It's 6 lines up from the bottom. When it comes to nida. Right, when it comes to Niddah, Shalei Frisha B'Tara. So what's this case? Look at Rashi. Shalei Frisha B'Tara B'Shvi'i Shelo Badka Ben Hashmashos. So we'll say this is actually a very interesting fact here. If you remember again, we've spoken about a number of times that biblical Niddah is how long? 7 days. So we'll say, so what that means is as follows. Halacha l'maisa, a woman goes in and bleeds, she becomes a Niddah for 7 days. What happens at the end of those 7? Now, what's the start? What happens to happen during those 7 days? Right? Doesn't make a difference, right? Whatever it is. She bleeds, she doesn't bleed, she bleeds 5 days, she bleeds 3 days, she bleeds 7 days. Doesn't make a difference. She goes to the mikvah, night number 8. However, what must happen is at the end of those 7 days, she must do a badika. She must do a badika to indicate that what? That the bleeding has ceased. So very interesting. So contemporarily, what we call today a hefsek tara which is the bedika that a woman normally does at the end of 5 days to transition into her shiva nikiyim. So ultimately and biblically, a woman would do at the end of the 7 days of her nidus to show that she had stopped bleeding. Then she could go to the mikvah. So listen to this case. What about a situation where as follows? Niddah shelo hifrisha betara min mincha ulamala. What happens if a niddah did not go? A woman who's a niddah did not do. Rashi says shelo hifrisha betara b'shvi shelo badka ben hashmashos. So we'll say it's now her seventh day. She wants to go to the mikvah that night, but she failed to do a bedika. So what's the halacha? Niddah shelo hifrisha betara min mincha ulamala. Lote becheskas tameya. Will she not go ahead and remain in a cheskas tameya? In other words, without that bedika, she remains in the cheskas tameya. Look at Rashi. Lote becheskas tameya ve'ino tovelas li'erev. She obviously cannot go to the mikvah that night. V'afa pi shefrisha betara shachris alma misharasa havya kol yom becheskas chozeres v'roa ad gimar hayom. So we'll say, now here's what's interesting. Let's say in this case over here, she didn't do a bedika in the evening, but she did do a bedika that morning. Nevertheless, the bedika of the morning does not allow her to go to the mikvah that night. Why? Because that entire 7th day, she is becheskas chozeres veroa. So we'll say, essentially during the 7 days of nidus, her chazaka is that what? What's her chazaka? That she bleeds. So ultimately, again, the only way for her to go to the mikvah that night is how? Is if halacha lemaisa, she does a bedika that evening. Finish the Rashi. Afzu hoyo v'labadka ben hashmashos. I'm sorry. Hoyo v'labadka ben hashmashos shalem. Ikala mechash dom sof ben hashmashos rasa. The older shtira. Supposed to say so too over here in this case. So just like a niddah, if the evening of the 7th day, meaning the end of the 7th day, she doesn't do another bedika, so halacha she can't go to the mikvah that night. So the Gemara says, so too over here in this case over here we have to be choshesh that maybe she saw a kesem ben hashmashos, or I should say differently. Once she saw a kesem, we must be concerned that halacha lemaisa that occurred ben hashmashos, the nirin dvarav kishabatka, and ultimately again his words make sense when she did a bedika. My batka. Rabbi say, what does it mean she did a bedika? To which the Gemara says, actually he adds in over here in the Agos Tziyunin, the lo chayshinan kishabatka, that we need not be choshesh when she did a bedika. What's the bedika? My badka. Ilaim but the badka but Rabbi Huda v'lo badka but Rabbi Yossi. If you want to say she did a bedika, and ben hashmashos Rabbi Huda not bedika Rabbi Yossi. Mechlad Rabbi Huda ben Igra savar afagav the lo badka lo Rabbi Huda Rabbi Yossi lo chaysha. Then Rabbi say, would that mean that according to Rabbi Huda ben Igra, even if she didn't do a bedika during either opinion of ben hashmashos, that he would not be choshesh? V'halabadka, that can't be because she didn't do a bedika. Elapshita de badka bein Rabbi Huda bein Rabbi Yossi. Right? The Rabbi say, what's the case? She did a bedika both according to both opinions of ben hashmashos, Rabbi Huda Rabbi Yossi. Mechlal Rabbi Huda ben Igra savar de badka ben Rabbi Huda v'la badka ben Rabbi Yossi lo chaysha. Rabbi say, can we infer from that Rabbi Huda ben Igra would hold that if she did a bedika by the ben hashmashos of Rabbi Huda, but not Rabbi Yossi, that she would not be choshesh? Alma ben hashmashos Rabbi Yossi, the Rabbi Huda ben Igra laylahu. Rather, what do you see from here? That it must be according to Rabbi Huda ben Igra heals that ben hashmashos of Rabbi Yossi is already considered to be layla. Kasha Rabbi Huda ben Igra, Rabbi ben Igra. Also, you have a contradiction of Huda ben Igra. Bishlama below Rabbi lo kasha. So, without Rebbe's interpretation, there's no contradiction. Hasam de badka Rabbi Huda below badka Rabbi Yossi. It would be a case of where ultimately when she does a bedika in the ben hashmashos of Rabbi Huda, but not in the ben hashmashos of Rabbi Yossi. Hacha de badka nami b'Rabbi Huda u'b'Rabbi Yossi. Ela b'Rabbi kasha. I will say, but in Rebbe's sheet itself there's a contradiction. To which the Gemara says, you're right. Trei tanoi va'ali b'Rabbi Huda ben Igra. As Rabbi said, there are two tanoim with two different interpretations of the position of Yehuda ben Igra. Hai Tana savar shalom ben hashmashos Rabbi Yehuda v'hadar chayil ben hashmashos Rabbi Yossi. So both say, in fact, what it turns out over here is there is a fundamental machlokes in ben hashmashos. So both say, interestingly enough, this is not really a fundamental. There is a fundamental machlokes in ksamim, right? We saw that already in the Mishnah. Can ksamim in general create a zivos problem? So that we've already seen. We've also already seen what? How do you, even if you hold that ksamim can cause a zivos problem, right? They both say, then what's the further machlokes? in what context or in what situation do ksamim cause a problem? Is it ultimately, again, even 3 grisim worth of, we'll call it, stainage in one area on one beged? Is it 3 independent stains but on one beged? Or is it 3 independent stains on what? 3 different begadim. So that was some machlokas. Now the Gemara is saying, in fact, in Rabbi, supposed to remember again, everything is going back to Rabbi Yehuda ben Igra. Right? Rabbi Yehuda ben Igra said on Amud Beis that what? That halach, he introduced this new idea. What's his dramatically new, life-changing idea? That what? 2 can equal 3. 2 could equal 3. What are you talking about? I'll say, like most things in life, timing is everything. Right? That ultimately, again, if there is a kesem that occurs ben hashmashas, because ben hashmashas is this interesting time of day that could count as both day and night, you could have 2 ksamim that really turn into 3 if one of them occurred ben hashmashas. So I will say what that does is that now triggered a whole discussion about ben hashmashas. Oh, when is ben hashmashas? Who is ben hashmashas? Are you talking about? Are you talking about ultimately again the ben hashmashas of Rabbi Yehuda? That's what? And sooner after sunset, where the upper horizon is dark, lower horizon is reddish, that lasts for 9 minutes. Or you're speaking about the later ben hashmashas of Rabbi Yossi. Both remember again, I didn't point this out before. Rabbi Yossi's ben hashmashas is when it's keherefayim. That moment, that is later. That is later. According to Rabbi Yehuda, by the time you get into the ben hashmashas of Rabbi Yossi, what is Rabbi Yehuda hold the ben hashmashas of Rabbi Yossi? It's nighttime already. Right? Also remember, according to Rabbi Yehuda, just so you should know, this is where all of these discussions, ultimately again of like Zman Rabbeinu Tam, 72 minutes later, all we're going to see. I'll say, I think there's 20 blot left to Shas. Is that about right? I don't know. The Aguda didn't send out its 57 emails today, so I don't know where we're up to. But I think Friday was 22. I think Friday was 22. So we're going to see when we get back to brachas. This is the beginning of brachas. We're going to all get into all of these incredible sugyas. Shabbos says, now coming back, so the Gemara says as follows. So what's the case? So we have 2 Tanam according to Rabbi Yehuda ben Igra. So here we go. So the Gemara says, Hi Tana Savar. The first Tana holds Shalom ben Hashmashas to Rabbi Yehuda. V'hadra Amud Beis. V'hadra Chayil ben Hashmashas Rabbi Yossi. It is so one Tana holds, it is only after the ben Hashmashas of Rabbi Yehuda comes to an end, then the ben Hashmashas of Rabbi Yossi begins. Rashi says over here, first Rashi on the base, V'hadam Asal Rabbi Yossi was Sveikahu. So, Ben Hashmashas Rabbi Yossi. V'hai Tana Savar, Ben Hashmashas Rabbi Yossi Meshech Shayich B'd Rabbi Yehuda. The other opinion holds that what? The Ben Hashmashas ultimately again of Rabbi Yossi is Meshech Shayich. Look at Rashi. Muvlahu B'soksha Rabbi Yehuda V'chevan Delididei Ba'inan Kal Ben Hashmashas Rabbi Yehuda Haribar K'moshe. So the other opinion holds that in fact the position, the Ben Hashmashas of Rabbi Yossi is actually included, is mufla, is swallowed up in the Ben Hashmashas of Rabbi Yehuda. So now, just when we thought at least we got the machlokas of Ben Hashmashas down, right? I thought again, Rabbi Yehuda holds Ben Hashmashas, upper horizon dark, lower horizon reddish, 9 minutes. Rabbi Yossi, keherefayim. I will say, I assume keherefayim means what? Keherefayim means later on, when pretty much the horizon is already dark, but there's that moment that switches over between day and night. Now, Rabbi say it turns out that there's a machlokes in the machlokes, right? So there's a machlokes Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi. Now there's a machlokes in what Shitas Rabbi Yossi really is. Is Shitas Rabbi Yossi ultimately again like the first opinion that says Shalom ben Hashmashas Rabbi Yehuda only after the ben Hashmashas Rabbi Yehuda comes to an end? Does the ben Hashmashas of Rabbi Yossi begin, or do we say no? That in fact Rabbi Yossi's ben Hashmashas is in fact what? Somewhere inside those 9 minutes of Rabbi Yehuda. Incredible. So Moshe said this in and of itself is a machlokis, and this machlokis ultimately plays out by the Ksamim case. Incredible. Incredible. Tan Rabbanan. Weiter. Hara kesem. Woman sees a kesem. Metame atzma, the kachim mafred Rebbe. So Moshe says Rebbe holds that what? She is metame herself, or his personal tumah. Rashi says metame atzma, tumea atzma. Hara kesem metame atzma lataros kachim. So Moshe ultimately again, we're going to see what this means. A woman sees a kesem, so she sees a stain, right? Assuming that again the coloration is red, or one of the problematic colors, it's the size of a gris or more. So we'll say, what's the impact of that? She is metame herself and kachim lemafreya, So we'll say what that means is retroactively. Now, what is retroact? How far do you go back? So let's remember again, up until this point in time, whenever we see retroactivity in Hilchos Niddah, we always assume that it means what? Right? Either me'es le'es 24 hours, or what we saw from the first Mishnah Niddah, we'll say. Right? What was the first Mishnah Niddah? Pekida la pekida, maybe to the last bedika. Here, remember again, what are we talking about? We're talking about over here a stain found on a garment of clothing. So Mafreya Rashi says means ad shas hakibus, that ultimately again her tumah goes retroactively back to when? To the last time she laundered the clothing, which is a different way of saying to the last time she knows that the clothing was definitely clean, i.e. without stain. So therefore again, a woman sees a kesem, she is metame atzma and kachim. Rashi says hara kesem metame atzma letaros lekachim. So which means there's retroactive tumah for kachim purposes, right, sacrificial purposes. Taras. What does taras include? Right, trumas, right, truma, meiser. So until the last time she knows it was clean. That's Rabbi. Rabbi Shmuel Silber says, kachim mitame, atzma in mitame. Rabbi Shimon says retroactivity, Rabbi say, which is a chumrah. Retroactivity only applies to what? Only applies to kachim. Doesn't apply to anything else. Which Rabbi say makes sense. The holier something is, the more sensitive it is to tumah. So we'll retroactively back up her tummy status to the last time she knew this garment was clean for kachim purposes, but not for anything else. Shelo yehei kisma chamer meriyasa, because we'll say a kesem can't be any more chamer than a riyah. Right? What does that mean? We'll say, look at Rashi. Chamer meriyasa lemafreya de l'riyasa lo havi elame eis leis. The kisma shatzkis. Well, listen to this. This is actually quite amazing. Because what are we saying over here? Remember again, Re'iyah, we'll say, remember again, the most machmir position for Re'iyah was what? 24 hours. And I will say, remember again, laundering, right? I will say, contemporarily, one of the greatest theological challenges that we encounter is laundry and chalamayid. Right, laundry and chalamayid. Is it possible that a person is not going to do laundry, right, for 2 days, for 3 days? So I'll say, because again, obviously our laundering habits have changed significantly over time. So we'll say, you're talking about the last time she laundered a garment, and we'll say that could be for who knows how long, which so something amazing just happened. When it comes to a re'iyah, right, the most machmir period of time that will back up retroactive tumah is 24 hours. Now you're introducing the concept of a kesem, and we're going to say that a kesem creates retroactive tumah until when? Till the last time she laundered the garment. I don't know, when was that? That could have been, so the Gemara says, Shloye kisma chamriyasa, v'hamatzinu kisma chamriyasa, and kachim. But 1 second, you just made kesem more machmir than re'iyos by what? By kachim. What did you just say? You just said that halacha l'maaseh, if she finds a kesem on her garment, so we back up her tumah status retroactively legabi kachim until when? Till the last time she laundered their garment, which I was like could have been days ago, could have been a week ago. So you're telling me now that a kesem is more chamer than a re'iyah. When I started Maseches learning about re'iyah, she had a discharge as re'iyah. So again, I don't know when the discharge occurred. So what did we see? It should be machmir me'es leis, 24 hours. That's the most machmir sheet. Right? Remember what I was saying? Remember the Masechta? Right? Machlokes Shammai Beis Hillel. So that was, bless you, that was re'iyah. Now you're telling me that if she finds a kesem, you're going to back up her status, her tummy status, vis-a-vis kachim, till the last time she learned the garment. You're right. So this is Mara Ella Tani Hachi. Tani Hachi is after Shimon Elazar Omer Af Kachim Ena Metame Shaloye Kisma Cham Riyas L'Chol Darabos. Rather, Shimon Elazar says no. That halacha lamaisa we do not retroactively apply the status of ksamim at all, in order that ksamim should not be more machmir ultimately again than what? Than re'iyos. Tan Rabbanon. So what do we go back to? Tan Rabbanon. Rasa kesem v'achar kach rasa. That was another interesting case. What happens? She sees a kesem and then she sees blood. This is actually a fascinating case. Look at Rashi. Rasa kesem v'achar rasa dam. So we'll say, so machlokes, by the way, just so you understand, fundamental machlokes regarding what do you do regarding mafreya status for ksamim. So I just want to point out, this is a machlokes, right? Rebbe holds that halacha l'maisa, we apply retroactivity to ksamim. To ksamim. Apply retroactivity to when, Rabosai? To when? To when? To when? It's not a trick question. The last time she laundered the garment, right? Rabbi Shimon comes along and says, no. we do not apply retroactivity to ksamim. Why? Because what's going to happen then? Ksamim become more chamer than re'ios. Next case. Rasa kesem v'ahakach rasa dam. We'll say, what happens if she sees a kesem, and then what? Look at Rashi. Rasa kesem v'ahakach rasa dam, b'soch me'is leis. So we'll say, so what happens if she goes ahead and she sees a kesem, and then she sees a flow of blood? So she sees a stain on her garment, then she experiences a re'iyah, right, within 24 hours. What's the halacha? Tola kisma be're'iyasa me'is leis divrei Rebbe. So Rebbe holds that essentially we attach that kesem to that re'iyah, as long as the re'iyah occurred within 24 hours of the kesem. Look at Rashi. Tola kisma be're'iyasa va'aminan hai kesem midam nidos zehu utahora milatame ad shas hakibus ela mishematzo laba. So we'll say, now watch this. What does that do if you attach the kesem ultimately again to the re'iyah? What does that do? That prevents retroactivity. Instead, what we'll say is she'll become tameh as of when? From the time she found the kesem. That's when we realize, because again you can't ignore the kesem. So she'll become tameh from the time of the kesem. But we need not go ahead and back up her tameh status retroactively to the last time she laundered the garment. So we'll say, remember again, even Rebbe, who we just read a few lines ago, even Rebbe who says that for ksamim you can apply retroactivity, will agree to the last time she laundered the garments, will agree we don't do that when ultimately again the kesem is followed by a re'iyah. Then we'll attach that kesem to the re'iyah. Now obviously you can't ignore the kesem, so she'll have to become tameh from the time that she saw the kesem, but there's no retroactivity there. Rabbi Shmuel Silber Omer Yomo. Rabbi Shmuel Silber says it only applies to the same day. What does that mean? Look at Rashi. Yomo Imrasa Bo Bayom Tola. Vim Shaka Chama Afapi Shirasa B'Sach Me'is Leis. So listen to this. Rabbi Shmuel Silber says the only time you could attach the kesem to the re'iyah is when they occur on the same day. We'll say, well, which day? Calendrical day. But so in other words, if the kesem and the re'iyah occur on the same calendrical day, then we'll attach them. But however, again, if the kesem and the re'iyah apply on two different calendrical days, even though what, they're occurring within 24 hours of each other, we treat them separately. Amar Rebbe says, near in dvarav mi dvari. So Rebbe says, I think that the opinion of Rabbi Shimon Elazar, I accept his words over my words. Why? Shehu mitakna va'ani ma'avsa. Ultimately, again, because he helps her and I put her at a disadvantage. Says the Gemara, what are you talking about? Mitakna avu simavse. Both say no. In fact, it's just the opposite. In this case, Rebbe's shita is better for the woman than Reb Shimon's. Why? Because also remember again, Rebbe allows the woman to attach the kesem to the re'iyah within 24 hours. It's a much larger window. Reb Shimon only allows essentially again for one calendrical day. Ravina says, you're right, switch it around. The Rebbe says, I think my position is better than Rabbi Shimon's opinion because I help her, he does not. Rebbe says, so Rebbe ultimately says that I say that halacha l'maisa, my position is better. My position is better ultimately again than Reb Shimon's because I allow a larger window. Good. So the Gemara says, Reb Nachman Amar the Olam no seifoch. Reb Nachman says, no. In fact, don't switch it around. Why? Shehu mitakin hilchoseh lidei ziva. Right? Va'ani ma'aveis hilchoseh lidei ziva. Because ultimately, again, Rebbe says that ultimately, no. So Reb Nachman says, leave Rebbe's position as originally stated. Where Rebbe says, I actually think that Rabbi Shimon is better in this situation than I am. Why? Because he helps her and I put her at a disadvantage. How does that happen? I'll say, look at Rashi. Hu mitakin hu choseli de ziva, le'inyan ziva hu mekel. I'll say for Rabbi Shimon, ultimately again his position creates a kula leap in terms of zivos. Why? Dilididei heicha delo chazia bo bayom lo talinan kisva beriyasa umona yemei nidos miyom reiyasa ve'en yemei ziva maschilin ad yom ches l'reiyasa. Because what essentially comes out that according to Rabbi Shimon, she'll have a prolonged state of nidos, and zivus won't start until later. Whereas according to Rebbe, in fact, her days of zivus will start earlier. So as I say, obviously for a woman, it is better to be a niddah than a zava. So I'll say, so again, so Rebbe is saying over here that Rabbi Shimon's position, ultimately again, where there's a shorter window, and therefore again the kesem is not going to be attached to the nidos. Ultimately, again, her nidos period becomes prolonged. That's actually an advantage for her, because the longer bleeding, or the more the probability that her bleeding won't create the zivus is an advantage. Rabbi says, in my model, the days of zivus come earlier, and Rabbi Shimon's model, the days of zivus come later. So therefore, Rabbi says, even I agree that Rabbi Shimon's position is better here. Ba'imini Rabbi Zera mi Rabbi Yasi. Ksamim tzrichen hefsek tara. Olo. Rabbi said, this is actually a fascinating discussion as well. Do ksamim require hefsek tara or not? We'll say, what does this mean? Look at Rashi. Tzrichen hefsek tara. B'shvi'i litbal be'erev tzricha libdok ben hashchashos lahavsek b'tara lo. So listen to this interesting question. Remember, we said this on Amud Aleph. What happens? When becomes a niddah? Rabbi say, remember again, in biblical niddah, it's not like today where we have it, where during Shiva Nekiyim, a woman ideally does 2 bedikos, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, or one in the evening. Remember again, that doesn't apply to Hilchos Niddah Midaraisa. Hilchos Niddah Midaraisa, she becomes a Niddah. 7 days, she's considered to be in a state of active bleeding. Whether she bleeds or not is irrelevant. End of the 7th day, she does a bedika. That's called the hefsek tara. The goal of that bedika is to come out clean, to show that she has stopped bleeding. And then night number 8, she goes to the mikvah. They ask an interesting shaila. What we've established, Rabbi says, that a woman could become a niddah as a result of a kasem, as a result of a stain. Is she obligated to go ahead and do her hefsek tara on day number 7 before the evening, if she became a niddah as a result of a stain, as opposed to becoming a niddah as a result of a flow? So tzrichen hefsek tara olo ishtik v'lo amar le v'lo midi. See, he was quite Rabbi Zera asking Rabbi Asi. So Rabbi Asi didn't respond. He was quiet. He had nothing to respond. Zimnin, sometime later, Ashkechei diyase v'ka'amar. He was right. He found that he was sitting and teaching v'ka'amar. Tola kisma bere'iyasa me'esleis divrei Rebbe. Then remember again, I'll say Rebbe's opinion is that halacha l'maisa, if she has a kesem and then she has a flow, as long as the flow followed within 24 hours, ultimately again of the kesem, we can attach the kesem to the flow. The advantage of doing that is what? You don't apply any type of retroactivity to the kesem. Rather, the kesem is only problematic from the time that you saw it and forward. Amar Reish Lakish, Amar Reish Lakish v'hu shabadka. That's true when, assuming that ultimately again she did a bedika. But Rabbi Yochanan says, Afa pi shalo badka. Rabbi Yochanan says, even if what? Even if halacha l'maisa, she did not do any kind of bedika. Amar le mechlal, the ksamim tzrichen hefsek tar, hafsakas tar. So we'll say again, this sounds like over here telling me that ksamim themselves require bedikas, require hefsek tara. Amar le in. He said, yes, it is true that ultimately again a hefsek tara requires a bedika as well. So says the Gemara, V'hazimnin sagin bo'iminach v'lo amrit v'lo midi. But I asked you this question so many times, you never gave me an answer as to whether or not the woman becomes a niddah as a result of a kasem. Does she require a hefsek tara or not? I always asked you this question and you never answered me. Amar lei. So the Gemara says, v'lo midi dilma agav shitvach asyalach. So this is actually interesting. So maybe again, agav shitvach means that maybe as a result that you were going ahead and speaking and learning, that the answer came to you. Shitvach literally means like a flow. Is it because of the flow of the learning, ultimately again, that the answer came to you? Amar le'in agav shitvai asyali. Yes, it's ultimately again, Rashi's rehitach. It's a result ultimately again of the flow of learning that the answer came a little bit more easily to me. So I'll say, interestingly enough, halacha l'maisa, what the Gemara seems to, the way the sugya ultimately seems to end off, is that even in a case where she becomes a niddah, ultimately because of what? Because of the kasem, she would still require a hefsek tara at the end of the 7 days in order to be able to go to the mikvah. We'll stop over. I just want to point out, I know you know this, but I will say, but again, remember, all of these halachos that we are seeing over here, we do not contemporarily, of course, observe Hilchos Niddah like this. That's because remember, we're still operating in a mode where Niddah and Zivus are reckoned as two separate things, right? And depending on when she bleeds, sometimes the discharge of blood will be Nidus, sometimes it will be Zivus. We have not yet gotten to the sugya, though we will see it in the coming days, of where essentially Chazal pretty much said we're blending these halachos. we no longer make a distinction between Nidos and Zivus. Rather, we treat all situations essentially as a hybrid model. Right? Rabbi say that's why, again, we don't have a pure Niddah model or a pure, well, we kind of just observe like a Zava Gedola model. That's kind of what we observe, right? That's why we require Shiva Nekiyim like a Zava. So I'm just pointing out that a lot of these halachos seem a little bit alien, so that's just because they're dealing in a Nidos Zivos construct, whereas the model that we use ultimately blends the two. We'll stop here with Rabbi. We'll begin with the Mishnah tomorrow.